The Hunger Games tells the story of Katniss Everdeen, but before Katniss there was a world, a country called Panem. From the Latin phrase panem et circens, bread and circuses. Give the people just enough to survive and just enough spectacle to stop them thinking. Understanding what Katniss was fighting against requires understanding how Panem was built, its geography, its structure, its history, its contradictions. 20 words. The same vocabulary used to explain empires, conflicts, and revolutions in the real world applied to a world that exists on the page and the screen. Before you understand the story, you need to understand the map. Most of the outlier districts exist in arid terrain. The lands beyond the fence surrounding District 12 are exactly this: cracked earth, sparse vegetation, and terrain that offers almost nothing. District 12 itself sits in a former Appalachian coal mining region, and the seam where the poorest families live is described as a gray and dusty landscape that yields no comfort and no softness. Arid terrain shapes who survives it and how hard they have to work to do so. Not all of Panem is arid. District 11, stretching across the warm southern region, holds some of Panem's most fertile land. Fertile, from the Latin fer, to carry, to bear. Fertile soil bears crops. A fertile mind bears ideas. The root fer appears throughout English in words we use constantly: transfer, to carry something across from one place to another; refer, to carry back to something for consideration; infer, to carry a conclusion inward from evidence; and proliferate, which appears later in this episode, from proles, offspring, plus fere, to bear offspring rapidly. District 11's fertile fields proliferate food that goes directly to the capital, while the workers who tend them go hungry. District 11 produces orchards, grain, and cotton. The workers harvest food they are forbidden to eat. It is one of the largest districts by area and one of the most tightly controlled. Along the ocean edge of Panem lies District 4, and District 4 is entirely maritime. District 4 produces fish. Its citizens grow up near the water, learning to navigate boats and nets and tides from childhood. They are also one of the so-called career districts, places where volunteering for the games is considered honorable because their tributes are trained, strong, and frequently win. A maritime upbringing produces people who are comfortable in environments that would kill others. Between the districts, much of Panem is wilderness. Before the capital consolidated its control, parts of this wilderness supported nomadic communities, groups that followed game and resources across a landscape without settling. The fence around every district is about more than controlling who leaves. It is about ending the nomadic way of life permanently. Once you are assigned to a district, the fence says, "You are settled now. You belong to this place. This place belongs to the capital." All of this, Panem, the districts, the games, has deep roots in antiquity. Antiquity from the Latin antiquus, ancient, long past, from ante, before. The root ante gives us antique, old enough to have earned a second kind of value, antiquated. So old it is no longer useful, just in the way, anterior, situated before or in front of something, and anticipate, to take something before it happens, to prepare for what has not yet arrived. The Hunger Games are 74 years old when Katniss enters the first arena. That is long enough to feel like antiquity, old enough that no one alive can fully remember a time before them. That feeling of permanence is not accidental. The capital has designed the games to feel as inevitable as the mountains surrounding it. The Snow family represents something close to a dynasty. Dynasty from the Greek dynasties. A lord, one with power, from dynasty, to be strong, to have capability. This root gives us dynamo, a machine that generates force, or a person of extraordinary drive. Dynamic, characterized by constant active energy. And dynamite, Alfred Nobel named his explosive dynamite because it harnessed such concentrated power in a small space. The din root always signals force and capability. President Snow holds all of it. President Snow did not build the capital system. He inherited it, refined it, and maintained it. But the system was designed to outlast any single president. Dynasties do not require a surname. Every institution in Panem reinforces the concentration of power at the capital. The games, the Peacekeepers, the Tesserae system, the food distribution network, the mandatory television broadcasts. All of it is built to make the capital feel sovereign. There is no court the districts can appeal to. There is no neighboring country that will intervene. there is no constitution that limits the capital's reach. Within Panem, the capital's word is final. That is what sovereignty means in practice, not just having power, but having no one who can tell you to stop. The districts operate under a capital mandate. District 1 makes luxury goods. District 2 makes weapons and masonry. District 3 makes electronics. District 7 makes lumber. Each district's mandate is specific, enforced, and not negotiable. You do not choose what your district produces. You were born into it. The capital exercises hegemony over all 12 districts, not just legal authority, but a dominance so complete that resistance is almost unthinkable to most citizens. Hegemony is subtler than brute force. Brute force says, comply or be hurt. Hegemony says, you have already accepted that this is simply how things are. It operates inside the mind before it operates in the street. The most frightening thing about Panem is not the peacekeepers. It is the number of citizens in every district who have genuinely internalized the capital's right to rule. The territory of Panem was assembled by force. When the capital expanded, it annexed surrounding regions, absorbing them as districts and stripping them of any right to self-governance. What happened to the indigenous cultures of those regions when they were absorbed? Indigenous. From the Latin indi, but within, born of, plus gene, birth, origin, kind, literally born of this place. The root genus is extraordinarily productive in English. Genuine, truly born of itself, not imitated or performed. Genesis, the birth point of something. Generate, to bring something new into being. Genre, a type or kind of work, and generous, originally meaning someone born to give freely from an abundance of natural character. Some traces of indigenous identity remain in each district: the hunting traditions of 12, the nautical culture of 4, the agricultural knowledge of 11. But these are remnants of identity, not self-determination. The capital's own culture is almost entirely secular. But the games and capital ceremonies have no religious dimension. They are organized entirely around spectacle, entertainment, and the controlled demonstration of power. The capital does not govern in the name of a god. It governs in its own name, through television, through the reaping, through delivering just enough food to prevent revolt while never allowing enough surplus to fund resistance. The capital's standard punishment for disobedience is sanctions. After the dark days, the surviving districts faced escalating sanctions, restricted rations, increased peacekeeper presence, and public executions. Every reaping is a sanction. Every tesserae slip for grain is a sanction. The system makes refusal feel impossible. Peacekeepers proliferate after any sign of unrest. When Katniss holds up the berries, peacekeepers proliferate across every district. An old man in District 11 is shot for a salute. The Hunger Games function as a proxy conflict. Each tribute is a proxy for their district's submission, sent to fight and die. Every kill is a message. Resistance costs your children. Katniss becomes a proxy for a rebellion and hope, a role assigned by the people watching. Is there any space for mediation in Panem? Almost none. The capital eliminated any independent body that could mediate. Haymitch operates within a broken system. The games themselves function as a theocracy of power. Theocracy, from the Greek theos, God, plus kratos, rule, power. The root, kratos, powers every crazy word in English. Democracy, aristocracy, autocracy, bureaucracy, and plutocracy. The capital is an autocracy with theocratic structure. It demands devotion, ceremony, and unchallenged authority. The games are not entertainment, but a ritual of submission. The audience is required, broadcast mandatory, devotion compulsory. The career tribute system creates a sectarian divide. Career districts 1, 2, and 4 train their children to win. They receive better rations and equipment. This creates a sectarian split, the career block versus the outlier districts. The capital designs this division deliberately. Districts that resent each other do not organize together. A sectarian split is a feature of the system. The survivors of the dark days are a diaspora. District 13 was not destroyed. It went underground, preserving its culture, technology, and purpose for 75 years. The citizens of District 13 are a diaspora, holding on to identity in the dark, waiting, and then the insurgency begins. District 13's insurgency is 75 years old when Katniss lights the spark. It was never defeated. It was patient. Insurgencies are not won in a single battle. They are won when the conditions that made them necessary are resolved. In Panem, those conditions were everywhere. The berries were just the moment someone made them impossible to ignore. Panem is fictional. The Hunger Games is a story, but every word in this episode is a real word used today to describe real governments, conflicts, and populations. The capital sounds like something Suzanne Collins invented. It does not sound entirely unfamiliar. 20 words. One story. New episode every week. Subscribe. Arid. The land past the fence where nothing takes root from the ground. Fertile. The District 11 fields where more than enough could be found. Maritime. The district that fishes and floats and was born by the sea. Nomadic. The way of life the fence made impossible to be. Antiquity. 74 games. Old enough to feel like forever. Dynasty. The snow line built so power would stay together. Sovereign. The capital that answers to no higher power at all. Mandate. The district orders, produce and deliver or fall. Hegemony. Control so complete that the districts enforce it within. Annex. The act that made 12 free lands a system to win. Indigenous. The cultures that were renamed when the capital planned. Secular. The games as ritual, with spectacle in command. Sanctions. The rations cut down when a district dares to resist. Proliferate. The peacekeepers spreading to every square that exists. Proxy. The tribute who fight so the capital keeps its hands clean. Mediation. The neutral table that Panem has never once seen. Theocracy. The power that demands you bow and believe and comply. Sectarian. Career district versus outlier divided by design. Diaspora. District 13 underground scattered but refusing to die. Insurgency. The long resistance that waited until the time was right. New episode every week. 0 flashcards. If that sounds like your kind of learning, subscribe and we will see you next time.